Have you ever stood in the quiet of your own kitchen, tea in hand, and realized how much the silence has grown? Not the peaceful kind of silence, but the kind that slowly crept in over the years between the phone calls that stopped coming, the footsteps that no longer echo down the hallway, the laughter of grandchildren heard only through screens. You didn't expect to end up here. Not exactly. No one dreams of loneliness. You raised a family. You gave your best years. And now, it's just you and the walls that know your every sigh. Living alone after 60 isn't what people talk about. They speak of freedom, of hobbies, of finally having time to travel. And yes, those things can be beautiful. But what they don't tell you is that some mornings, it's hard to even get out of bed, not because your bones ache, but because your heart does. The truth is, living alone can feel like both a blessing and a burden. A blessing because you don't have to explain yourself to anyone. You don't need to make room in your day for someone else's preferences or moods. You can eat cereal for dinner if you want to, or sit in silence with the window open, listening to the breeze without interruption. But it can be a burden, too, especially when your memories start to take up more space than your plans, when you realize the phone rings less, when holidays come and go, and you find yourself decorating for one. It's okay to feel that ache. It doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human and your heart was made for connection. But here's something I want you to hear clearly. Just because you live alone doesn't mean you have to feel lonely, and just because life has changed doesn't mean your joy has to vanish with it. There are quiet, steady things you can do every single day, little habits that don't require a grand plan or someone else's permission. These aren't about pretending to be busy or trying to fill time. They're about reclaiming your space inside and out with intention, with care, with love. Let me tell you about Margaret. She's 72 and lives alone in a small house tucked behind a row of olive trees. Her children live 2 states away. Visits are rare, and phone calls are polite but brief. For years, Margaret tried to keep herself occupied with chores scrubbing, sorting, organizing things that didn't need organizing. She filled her days, but not her spirit. She'd go to bed early, not because she was tired, but because she didn't know what else to do. Then one morning, she woke up and made a decision, not a big, dramatic one, but a small, intentional one. She lit a candle before breakfast, not because anyone was visiting, not because it was a holiday, just because it made the morning feel softer. That was the beginning. She started walking to the park after lunch, not for exercise, but to notice the trees, to greet the birds. She began writing down 3 things she was grateful for each evening, not always profound things. Sometimes it was the way the jam tasted or the neighbor's dog wagging its tail. These small habits didn't erase her solitude, but they gave it shape. They turned her home from a waiting room into a sanctuary. That's the power of simple, daily rituals. They don't scream for attention. They don't demand applause. They simply root you back into yourself gently, steadily, honestly. And when you do that, when you treat your own life as something worth tending, something subtle but powerful begins to shift. You begin to feel like more than just a mother, or a spouse who once was, or someone who's been left behind. You begin to remember that you are still becoming, that your time this time is still yours. There's a quiet dignity that comes with choosing how to spend your day, especially when no one's watching. That's not loneliness. That's freedom when you learn how to wear it well. So if you've been waking up feeling like each day is a repeat of the one before, if you've been sitting by the window wondering if the best parts of your story are already behind you, I'm here to remind you, they're not. The chapters ahead may look different, but they can be deeply fulfilling. Not because of who's around you, but because of how you show up for yourself. You don't need to fill every hour. You just need to meet a few of them with presence. And presence doesn't mean doing more. It means doing what matters to you. Whether that's making your bed with care, sipping your coffee while watching the birds, tending to a little herb garden on your porch, or calling a friend just to hear their voice. These are not small things. These are anchors. These are acts of saying, I am still here. I am still worthy. I still get to choose how this day feels. And that is how joy begins to return. Not in waves, but in little ripples. a sunrise you actually pause to watch, a soft song that fills the quiet, a walk where your breath slows and your shoulders drop, a day where you don't rush, but you don't feel stuck either. You are not here to fade quietly. You are here to live on your own terms, in your own rhythm, with your own grace. And you don't have to wait for anyone else to give that to you, because even alone, you are complete. Even quiet, you are radiant. Even still, you are enough. There's something tender and deeply human about the way we carry our memories. Not just the milestones, the weddings, the holidays, the birthdays, but the small things. The hum of conversation around a dinner table, the clink of a teacup. The way your child once curled up beside you without a word, just trusting that you'd be there. And then, one day, the rhythm changes. They grow, they move, they become busy, or distracted, or distant, and you're left not just with an emptier house, but with a quieter role in their lives. When you live alone after 60, it's not just about being without someone. Physically, it's about navigating what to do with all that love that once had a place to go. And often, we turn that love inward, but not always in the healthiest ways. Some of us begin to overextend. We say yes to things we don't want to do, hoping it'll make us feel useful again. We bake extra food just in case someone visits. We keep the light on a little longer at night, hoping maybe someone will remember to call. It's subtle. We don't always notice we're doing it, but it comes from that ache to still matter. Helen, a retired school teacher I once met, said something that stuck with me. After my husband died and the kids moved out, I felt like a bookmark in everyone else's story. I wasn't the chapter anymore. So she did what many of us do. She tried to keep giving. She babysat at every request. She lent money even when it stretched her. She hosted holiday dinners by herself just to prove she still could. And still, she went to bed feeling empty until one afternoon, she stood in her kitchen, apron on, realizing she was cooking a full roast for people who hadn't confirmed if they were coming. That's when something in her shifted. She turned off the oven, set the food aside, and instead made herself a small plate of what she actually wanted to eat. She poured a glass of wine, she lit a candle, and she ate alone but with presence. She didn't need an audience. She didn't need applause. What she needed was to stop begging for love in places that had gone silent. Sometimes, we think that if we just give a little more or try a little harder, we'll be valued again. But the truth is, respect doesn't come from sacrifice. It comes from sovereignty. And sovereignty means choosing to live with intention, not desperation. It's not about shutting people out. It's about not making yourself small in order to stay in their line of sight. One of the habits that truly changes how you experience solitude is this. You stop performing for love and start living from it. That can look like saying no when something doesn't feel right. It can look like not picking up the phone the moment someone calls. If you're resting, it can look like letting the dishes sit in the sink and taking a walk instead. It's in these subtle shifts that you begin to reclaim your space. And when your space starts reflecting how you feel calm, clear, cared for, your life does too. Let me tell you about Jack. Jack is 78, a former mechanic who now lives alone with his dog, Milo. For a while, after his wife passed, Jack did very little. He sat in front of the TV, ate whatever was easy, forgot the feel of sunlight on his skin. Then one day, Milo nudged open the back door, and Jack noticed the sky was almost purple with evening. Something stirred. He stood up, walked outside barefoot, and just stood there, breathing. The next morning, he made a choice. He started every day with 10 minutes in the garden. Didn't matter if it rained. Didn't matter if it was cold. It became his way of greeting life again. That habit grew. He added a short walk. Then, birdseed at the feeder. Then, he began fixing old radios in his garage, humming while he worked. Jack still lives alone, but now he lives with himself fully, not beside his life, but in it. That's what presence can do. It pulls you back into the current of your own experience. And from there, you stop waiting for others to invite you in. You begin building something solid and steady beneath your own feet. You don't need a packed schedule or a house full of people. You need a rhythm that honors you. And it starts simply, it could be the way you dress each morning, not because someone's coming over, but because you want to feel fresh. It could be the way you prepare your tea slowly, reverently. It could be writing a note to yourself before bed. Something kind, like, "You showed up today. I'm proud of you." These aren't tricks. They're acts of self-devotion, and in time, they quiet the parts of you that feel unseen because you begin to truly see yourself. Loneliness becomes less about who's missing and more about what you're nurturing. The greatest comfort isn't in the company of others. It's in feeling connected to yourself. No matter who's around, you are not just filling time. You are weaving meaning into your day, one choice at a time. So take a moment. Now, breathe. Feel your body in your chair. Notice something, anything that you hadn't seen before, a sound outside, a flicker of light, the warmth of your own presence. You're here. And that's not a small thing. Sometimes, the most powerful change comes not from some grand event, but from the way you begin to carry yourself differently. There's a quiet strength that grows in someone who no longer seeks permission to feel joy. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't look loud, but it changes everything. You wake up, and instead of asking, "Who needs me today?" you ask, "What do I need today to feel alive?" And when you begin your day with that kind of question, not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect, you stop waiting for someone else to give you direction. You begin to follow your own inner compass. Let's talk about Grace. Grace had always been the peacekeeper in her family, the one who smoothed things over, who offered her time, her home, her money, her energy, everything. But after 65, something in her shifted. She was tired. She'd call her adult children, and the calls would go unanswered. She'd invite them to dinner, only to have the evening canceled last minute. Birthdays passed with a short text instead of a visit, and slowly, she realized that she was chasing people who didn't see her. Not really. So one evening, she made herself a promise. She said, "I will no longer offer myself to people who only take me for granted." It didn't come with a dramatic speech. It came with small decisions. She stopped calling first. She started painting again, something she hadn't done since her 20s. She found a local class that met once a week. No one knew her as a mother there. She was just Grace, the woman who loved color and light and canvas. And something beautiful happened. Her face softened, her shoulders straightened. She smiled more genuinely, not politely. Then one weekend, her son stopped by, unannounced. He noticed the painting on the easel and asked, "When did you start doing this?" And she said, "I've always done it. I just stopped for a while, but I'm back now." He stood there, silent. Something about her presence was different. She wasn't asking for attention. She wasn't begging to be seen. She was simply herself fully, calmly, and joyfully. When you begin to live from a place of fullness, not lack, people feel it. They sense that you're not looking to be saved. You've already saved yourself. And ironically, that's when some of them begin to return, not out of guilt or duty, but out of curiosity. They wonder what's changed. But even if they don't return, you no longer need them to. That's the beauty of this stage of life. After 60, you've seen enough to know that waiting for others to validate your worth is a losing game. The deeper satisfaction comes from walking your days with grace. Even if no one else is watching, think about the rhythm of your week. How often do you pause not just to rest, but to celebrate something you did for yourself? Maybe you got out for a walk. Maybe you made a beautiful breakfast, just for you. Maybe you laughed at something on the radio, and for a moment, you felt light again. These are victories. Don't overlook them. Each moment you choose your own joy. You rewrite the story that says your life is only valuable if others are involved. Your life is valuable because it's yours. Sophie, a widow who now volunteers at the library, once told me, "I thought I'd be lonely forever. But it turns out, once I stopped trying to fill the silence, I started hearing myself again." That's what solitude can give you if you let it. A deeper connection to the self you were before the titles, before you were someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's caretaker. There's still a you in there, not an echo of who you used to be, but someone wise, funny, tender, and strong. Living alone doesn't mean living less. It means choosing your rituals carefully. It means making your space a reflection of your heart, not a waiting room for someone else's return. You can plant herbs in the window just because you like the smell. You can dance in the kitchen when no one is looking. You can buy fresh flowers for your nightstand. You can leave yourself a note on the mirror that says, "You are doing beautifully." And none of this is silly. It's sacred. Because each habit you build in this chapter is an offering to your own spirit. You're not broken. You're blooming again in a quieter season. And if there are days where grief still whispers, let it, don't fight it, but don't let it claim the whole house. Either let it pass through you like wind through a tree. Let it remind you how deeply you've loved and still can. The greatest freedom isn't in having a full house or a busy calendar. It's in knowing you don't have to be anything other than yourself. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You don't need to be needed to be valuable. You only need to stand quietly in the truth of your own life and let that be enough. Because it is, you are, always. Thank you for sitting with me through this. Truly, thank you. I know we've covered a lot, not just words, but emotions that sit deep in the chest, feelings that maybe you haven't spoken out loud in a long time. Loneliness. Yes, it's real, but so is quiet joy. So is the pride that comes from walking your path with dignity, even when it's not shared by others. If you're living alone right now, whether by choice, by loss, or by life simply unfolding that way, please hear this. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. There is a pulse in your story that still matters deeply, even if the world has grown quieter around you. Every morning you rise and choose to care for yourself. That's an act of strength. Every time you make a cup of tea and sit by the window to feel the sunlight on your face, that's a form of prayer. Every choice you make to keep your space clean, your body moving, your thoughts kind, that's love. And it counts. It may not show up on anyone else's calendar. No one may text to say, "Good job," but I see it. I know it. And somewhere, someone else who feels the same ache is watching too and drawing hope from your courage. There's something sacred about building a life that doesn't depend on being seen by others to feel real. It becomes yours in a way that is deeper, more honest, more resilient. If anything from this conversation today made you feel a little more seen, a little less alone, I'd love for you to share your story. Has your life changed since living alone? What practices or small rituals have brought you peace? Is there something you've learned in this quieter season that surprised you? You never know who might read your words and feel a little stronger because of them. Sometimes, just knowing we're walking this path together, even through a screen, makes all the difference. And if you found comfort here, I'd be grateful if you subscribed or clicked like, not for numbers, not for noise, but so that we can stay connected. So that when a new message like this is shared, you'll know it's here waiting for you, like a warm light left on at the end of a hallway. This space we're building isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's about honoring the struggles, the softness, the strength that comes after so much living. You are part of a quiet generation that knows how to endure. But I want you to do more than endure. I want you to thrive, even if thriving looks like taking a slow walk to the mailbox and smiling at the neighbor's dog. Even if it means rearranging your living room just because you felt like it. Even if it means turning on a song from 1973 and dancing like nobody's business. This chapter of your life is still your story. Don't let anyone write it for you. Not society. Not guilt. Not silence. You get to decide what joy looks like now. Maybe it's learning how to cook something new. Maybe it's going back to a book you loved when you were young. Maybe it's giving yourself permission to nap in the middle of the afternoon without calling it laziness. Freedom comes in small rebellions against what you were told life should be after 60. There's no rule book anymore. There's only what brings you peace. And peace is worth protecting. It's okay if some days are still hard. It's okay if the silence feels heavy. But know this, you are never truly alone in your experience. So many others are walking beside you, quietly, choosing light even in the quietest corners of their day. So when you water your plants or take your vitamins, or make your bed not for guests, but for you. Remember, it's not routine. It's devotion to your health, to your space, to yourself. You are worthy of love, not just from others, but from within. Let that be the habit that roots every other one. And if ever you forget, come back to this message. Let it remind you, you matter. You are enough, and you're doing beautifully. I'm honored to walk beside you. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. And know, from my heart to yours, you are deeply, deeply loved.